The whole tradition began when I was 16, 2 days before Thanksgiving, and Mom slipped on the porch and broke her wrist. "Sarah can take care of it," she mumbled from her recliner, loopy on painkillers. "She's been helping me for years." Helping, in my case, meant peeling potatoes and setting the table, not single-handedly preparing dinner for 23 hungry relatives with no warning and no instructions. Still, I pulled it off. I stayed up until 3 in the morning crying over burned rolls, somehow serving a meal that, while far from perfect, was edible. "Sarah did such a wonderful job," everyone gushed. Mom smiled proudly, as though she'd coached me through it. Dad gave an approving nod. "Next year," he said, "Sarah can take over completely. She clearly has a talent for this." I was exhausted, anxious, and had missed the entire holiday. But their praise felt good. Being useful felt good. Being needed felt like love. That was 18 years ago. Every Thanksgiving since, I've been the official family chef. What started as a one-time emergency became an unbreakable expectation. As cousins married and had kids, our guest list swelled from 23 to more than 30. My job never changed. I cooked everything, every side, every dessert, every detail, while everyone else relaxed and enjoyed the day. Soon, Sarah's Thanksgiving became the family brand. Relatives bragged about my famous stuffing and perfect gravy. They made special requests, brought friends, and treated the holiday like a catered event, one I ran alone. Each year the pressure grew. Nobody ever offered real help. They'd poke their heads into the kitchen, nibbling at food and tossing out unhelpful comments, but vanish the second I asked them to chop or stir something. "Oh, we don't want to get in your way," they'd insist. "You're so good at this, you'd just have to redo it." The logistics were brutal. Grocery trips took days. I'd make detailed lists, prep desserts and sides ahead of time, and coordinate oven space like a professional chef. Thanksgiving itself was a 12-hour marathon of roasting, stirring, and plating. While everyone else laughed over wine and watched football, I stood alone in the kitchen, eating my meal off the counter while scrubbing pans. The worst part was the constructive criticism. "The turkey was a little dry last year. Could you make the stuffing less salty? Aunt Marie's rolls were better, but yours are fine." They treated me like staff, not family. By my mid-20s, I dreaded the holiday. Cooking for 30 people requires the stamina of a restaurant team, not one person with a home kitchen. Every year ended the same. Me collapsed in bed, too tired to even be angry. Friends invited me to join their Thanksgiving dinners, and I always gave the same answer. "I can't. I'm cooking for my family." They'd look baffled. "Can't everyone bring a dish?" Apparently, that idea didn't exist in my family. The very suggestion was scandalous. "But it won't be the same. You're the best cook we have. It's tradition." Yes, their tradition. Mine was exhaustion disguised as devotion. College gave me a temporary reprieve, but even then, relatives called asking for recipes or complaining that Thanksgiving wasn't the same without Sarah. The guilt trips were relentless. How dare I prioritize education over stuffing? After graduation, the cycle resumed with higher expectations. "You've grown so much. This will be even easier now, right?" It didn't matter that I had a demanding job or my own life. What mattered was that Thanksgiving stayed perfect. The breaking point crept up gradually. Every year the requests became more entitled. One cousin's boyfriend arrived with a list of his food sensitivities, and she expected me to cater to them. When I suggested he could bring his own meal, she was offended. "Sarah, don't be difficult. Can't you just make something he can eat?" The next year my sister-in-law went gluten-free and demanded alternate versions of every dish. When I said that would double my workload, she accused me of being unsupportive. Then came last year, the final straw. 3 days before Thanksgiving, Dad handed me a list of 32 names. "Bit more than we expected," he said casually. "Some folks are bringing friends. I told them you wouldn't mind." I stared at that list, calculating extra groceries, oven space, and lost sleep. 8 more people. 3 days' notice. "I do mind," I said quietly. Dad blinked, startled. What? I mind. I can't cook for 32 people with 3 days' notice. He looked genuinely confused, as though the words didn't make sense coming from me. Sarah, I've always seen you handle anything we've thrown your way, Dad said. What's different now? What was different was that I was 34, with 18 Thanksgivings behind me, each spent sweating in the kitchen while everyone else relaxed. What was different was that I'd never had a peaceful holiday of my own. What was different was that I was completely worn out from being taken for granted. I need help, I said. Actual help, not people hovering around saying, just tell me if you need anything, and then disappearing. Dad sighed. You know how it is. Everyone's got their own way of doing things. It's simpler if you just take care of it. Easier for who? Yes. Because it's definitely not easier for me. That Thanksgiving fell apart. I was exhausted, short-tempered, and holding back tears all day. The food turned out fine, but my patience didn't. I hid in the pantry crying while the turkey rested, plastered on a fake smile at dinner, and then locked myself in my room afterward. By the next day, I'd become the family's favorite topic. They whispered about my attitude, and how I needed to manage my stress better. Not one person suggested maybe I had too much on my plate, just that I needed to cope. In January I started therapy. I needed to understand why something that looked voluntary felt like a trap. My therapist's questions cut through the guilt and habit I'd built my life around. Do you even enjoy cooking for your family? I used to, I admitted. Back when it was a choice, when I was helping, not doing everything. Now it feels like a job I can't quit. What would happen if you said no? They'd be upset. I'd be accused of ruining Thanksgiving. And if Thanksgiving was ruined, I hesitated. They'd find a way. They'd cook or order food. Life would go on. What do you actually want your Thanksgivings to look like? I wanted rest, laughter, connection. I wanted to sit at the table, not serve it. Therapy helped me see how years of people-pleasing had turned into quiet exploitation. My family wasn't malicious. They were simply used to me sacrificing my time and sanity to make the holiday perfect. So we worked on boundaries, on saying no without guilt, on recognizing the difference between helping and being used. By October, I'd made up my mind. This would be my last year running Thanksgiving solo. I'd cook one final meal, make an announcement, and suggest a rotation system for the future. But as November drew closer, the same old routine swallowed me whole. Dad dropped off the guest list. 30 people again, assuming I was on board. Mom added a few special requests. Cousins started calling to confirm their favorite dishes. The weight of everyone's expectations pressed down, and without realizing it, I was back to planning menus and grocery runs. 3 days before Thanksgiving, standing in the produce aisle, it hit me. I was about to spend another holiday miserable, cooking for people who saw it as their right, not my kindness. I left the cart where it was and walked out. That night I called my best friend from college. Got plans for Thanksgiving? Yes. Yeah, flying to Portland to see my sister. Why? Mind if I tag along? She laughed. Of course not. But what about your family's dinner? Don't you cook for half the state every year? 30 people, I said. And not this time. The plane ticket cost a fortune, but buying it felt like buying my freedom. I packed a small bag, left my spotless kitchen behind, and braced for the storm that was coming. Wednesday night, Dad called. Cooking starts at 4, right? Oh, and Uncle Bob's bringing his new girlfriend. She's vegetarian, so make sure there's something for her. Cousin Jen's kids are picky, maybe make some plain pasta too. Actually, Dad, I said, I won't be cooking tomorrow. Long pause. What do you mean? I mean I'm not cooking Thanksgiving dinner. I'm leaving town. Sarah, this isn't funny. Everyone's expecting dinner. Then they'll need to come up with another plan. You can't just abandon your family on Thanksgiving. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm taking a break from being the unpaid caterer. His voice climbed through disbelief to anger. How could you be so selfish? Don't you care about us? What are we supposed to do now? I kept my tone calm just like my therapist taught me. You can order catering. Make it potluck. Go out to eat. People all over the country do Thanksgiving without forcing one person to handle everything. But you're the best at it. Everyone's counting on you. They're counting on me to sacrifice my happiness for their comfort, I said. That ends this year. I hung up before the next guilt trip started. Within minutes, my phone exploded with calls and texts. I turned it off. At 3 a.m. Thanksgiving morning, instead of basting a turkey, I sat in an Uber heading to the airport. Instead of calculating cook times, I was sipping coffee at my gate. And instead of giving up another holiday for other people's expectations, I was finally giving one to myself. The guilt hit hard during takeoff. 18 years of habit doesn't vanish overnight. I pictured the confusion and chaos at home. Imagine 30 relatives showing up to an empty kitchen. For a moment I almost turned back. Almost. A larger part of me, though, felt liberated, freer than I'd been in decades. Portland was stunning. My friend's sister hosted a small Thanksgiving dinner, just 8 people, where everyone actually participated. I brought wine and helped clean up afterward. We laughed, played board games, took walks, and genuinely enjoyed one another's company instead of simply devouring a meal someone else had labored over. It was the first peaceful Thanksgiving I'd had since I was 15. When I finally turned my phone back on Friday morning, it buzzed non-stop. 47 messages waiting for me. The tone ranged from furious to guilt-ridden, from tearful to manipulative. As I scrolled, the full story unfolded exactly as I'd expected. My family had all shown up Thursday expecting their usual banquet. When they discovered there was no food and no me, panic spread fast. Some left in search of restaurants. Most were closed. Others raided my parents' pantry for canned goods. A few dashed to grocery stores for pre-made sides and desserts. Eventually they pieced together a sad, mismatched meal of store-bought turkey, instant potatoes, canned vegetables and frozen pies. The general consensus: it was a catastrophe, the worst Thanksgiving ever. Many blamed me for ruining the holiday. Others were wounded that I'd disappeared without warning. A few accused me of abandoning the family, during a time that was supposed to be about togetherness. But tucked between the outrage and guilt trips were a few messages that made me pause. From my cousin Mark: I had no idea how much work you did every year. I'm sorry we took you for granted. From Aunt Linda: I get it now. You needed a break. We should have been helping all along. From my brother: Mom and Dad are livid, but honestly, I'm proud of you. And my teenage niece wrote: it was actually kind of fun trying to cook together, even though Uncle Dave burned the rolls and Grandpa complained the whole time. Over the next few weeks, the family dynamic began to shift. Some relatives stayed angry, refusing to talk to me. They couldn't forgive me for upsetting the convenient arrangement that had benefited them for so long. To them, my value had always been tied to my labor. Without that, I wasn't worth much. Others, though, began to understand. They apologized. They invited me to smaller gatherings where everyone shared the cooking. For the first time, I was treated like family, not free catering. My parents were the hardest to reach. They were embarrassed by how badly Thanksgiving had gone and blamed me for making them look bad. It took several raw, uncomfortable conversations before they began to understand my side. Mom insisted: we never asked you to do everything. You didn't need to, I said. You expected it, and I delivered year after year. But you always seemed to enjoy it. I enjoyed being appreciated, I explained. Not spending every holiday in the kitchen while everyone else celebrated. We honestly didn't know you felt that way, she whispered. And that, I realized, was the truth. They had never even thought about how it felt for me. To them, I was simply fulfilling my natural role as the family caretaker. It had never occurred to them to question whether that was fair or sustainable, because the system worked, for them. Eventually, things found a healthier rhythm. Thanksgiving transformed into a potluck. Everyone contributed something. Appetizers, sides, desserts, drinks. The host, a title that now rotated each year, handled the turkey and logistics. The meals weren't as polished or perfectly timed as when I did everything alone, but they were infinitely more joyful. People actually appreciated the food because they'd had a hand in making it. Kids learned to help instead of just waiting to be served. And I finally got to sit down, laugh, and eat while my meal was still warm. I could watch the game, play with the kids, and simply be part of the celebration. 3 years later, our Thanksgivings are smaller but so much warmer. Some relatives stopped coming when they realized there'd be no perfectly catered spread waiting for them. The ones who stayed did so because they genuinely wanted to be there. We focus on connection now, not consumption. I still cook, but only as one contributor among many. I make the dishes I love, not the ones people demand. I serve myself a plate and eat with everyone else. My kitchen is no longer a command center. It's part of the celebration. The Portland trip became a new tradition of its own. My friend and I take turns, 1 year with her family, the next exploring a new city. It's my annual reminder that holidays can be peaceful, spontaneous, and full of joy instead of duty and exhaustion. My family now understands something crucial. My presence is a choice, not a guarantee. And that choice makes the time we share more meaningful, because it's built on mutual care, not obligation. Looking back, I realize I didn't walk away from my family. I saved it. The old system was broken, built on unspoken expectations and unequal effort. By refusing to keep enabling it, I forced everyone, including myself, to grow. Those who truly cared made changes and stayed. Those who only valued what I could do for them drifted away. In the end, I learned who my real family was. Now, when Thanksgiving comes around, I'm grateful, not just for the food or the company, but for freedom, for boundaries, for balance. For the courage to choose joy over obligation. Because sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for your family is stop letting them take advantage of you. It teaches everyone, including yourself, what love looks like when it's mutual. My kitchen is no longer my prison. And Thanksgiving, it's finally mine again.